Okay, what's up guys? Oh, this one my camera, I forget. What's up guys? Farhan here with Fizo today. And here we are at the TVS Experience Center here in Kampung Ubi Industrial Park. If you guys want to purchase a TVS bike, you can test ride them also, and do come on down to this place lah. It's at block 3007. Got for the guys in blue. I'm wearing blue today.
So you're working here now, is it?
Yeah, I can say. Yeah, I have to because I need to pay back for this video. Okay, so thank you so much TVS and Motorsport for loaning us this awesome showroom for this podcast. And today we have a very special guest. I think you already wore their shirt already, yeah?
Yep.
Nice. So we have Nerine and Haren. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Yes, close enough, good enough.
Close enough.
Nerine and Haren, right?
Nerine
Yes,
and Haren.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
This one better than me lah.
That's why.
That's why you loyal follower, no, got their with their shirt some more.
Right.
Yeah, so welcome to the show guys. Thank you so much for coming. They're from All Terrain Overlanders. I know the timeline is kind of tight for you guys, but how does home feel like?
Feels good.
Wow, really missing the food, man. First thing we came back, all the mala, all the prata, the nasi padang, awesome.
That's what I realized when I went to India. Sorry to say, the food is bland.
Bland?
The food is bland.
He's gonna be offended.
Sorry to say lah. Sorry to say, but maybe I was in Ladakh, so
Ladakh is different.
So I didn't
dal chawal every day. Eat the omelette every day.
The first 2 days butter chicken nice, but the third day already you get bored of it.
And then you were really sick up there, right?
Yeah.
From the cold and all that.
Altitude
I remember seeing your face like.
Yeah. So anyway, just a bit of intro about them. If you guys have been living under a rock, there are a couple, who have been on the road for the past 11 months. Wow. And you guys are supposedly currently in Bulgaria lah. Before this break, come back to Singapore, right? To say this?
Yes, correct. So
at least their bikes are there.
Their bikes are there, so they are there in spirit lah.
So this year, if I just run through some numbers, we've been riding for 332 days. And then we rode 50,000 kilometers, almost exactly on the dot. And engine runtime around 900 hours.
Wow.
So it's been quite a crazy experience.
You really monitor the speedometer.
Because I'm riding a KTM 500, so I change engine oil by hours. And I change engine oil every 35 hours. So there's been 23 oil changes on my part. And I learned a lot about my bike. I learned about both our bikes, and we've had a crazy trip through 18 countries.
18 countries.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're talking about numbers lah, see?
Numbers guy.
Okay, so I just want to ask you guys this: the name All Terrain Overlanders, is it inspired by us? Just curious lah.
Knew you would answer.
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
See?
Funny.
Funny.
Catch us out
No lah, just kidding lah. Okay, so actually, what were you guys doing before this?
In terms of work.
Anything you want to share?
Okay.
More to work.
So I would share that I had very limited motor touring experience. The very first experience I had, I was a bit garang lah. I got a Suzuki GD 125cc bike from Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, and I rode all the way across to the north. And I had so many mechanical breakdowns. I was stuck. I didn't even know how to kickstart a bike. I had to Google how to kickstart a bike. And WikiHow explained step by step. So then only I told myself.
YouTube, WikiHow. Wow, that's
how
first.
old it was.
That's the first.
Yeah. So at that point I told myself, shit, I better learn some servicing, or general maintenance. So that's actually how I met Haren later on in 2021. Then we shared our dreams about touring and adventuring. So then that's also how this trip came about lah. But that was a bit about myself and my general experience with touring lah. Other than that, very short trips to South Africa with Haren, Australia. We rented bikes, but it's bloody expensive to rent bikes there, right? So we only rode for 2 days in these places. Other than that, scootering around in Bali, Phuket doesn't count lah, right? That was about it. But I think my Vietnam trip really opened, the world of motor touring to me. And then only after I met Haren, then he's like, do you know what is off-roading? I'm like, no. Do you know what is a dirt bike? No. And
when I first said, the thing is, she came to me and she wanted to buy a bike, and her bike must be able to do a lot of things, man. It must be able to go off-road, must be able to go on-road, must be able to use for commuting, must be lightweight, but must be powerful, I was like, whoa, this is the perfect bike. If it existed, everyone would want to buy this bike. Then she's like, oh, is it? I'm like, yeah. But I think for your case, most likely off-roading, commuting, something that can do it all, you're looking at a dual sport bike, a dirt bike. You know what she said? This kind of bike very action lah, right? Dirt bike, action bike.
Especially with the motards. I know what you mean lah. I know what you mean.
So carry on, sorry.
Yeah, so that was my general experience until I met Haren, and that's how we also talked about this plan about traveling together, leaving our jobs. We are also quite commitment free of commitment, so we decided to just do this, and it was also the right time. We are in our early 30s, and time waits for no man, you just gotta do it. So we are committed to this trip, and it's been going amazing in the last 11 months.
Wow. Okay. I think in my case, interestingly, since you were in the TVS concept store, my humble beginning as a biker was actually on a TVS bike.
Wow.
It was a Luna 50cc 2-stroke bike, and this bike was retarded. It had pedals.
It's a scoot.
It's a moped. It actually had pedals.
Okay.
To start the bike, you had to put it on its main stand, pedal it, and then throw the clutch, and then the bike would start. And then I learned on it, crashed on it, decided biking was not for me. And then years later I got back into biking again, which is quite a funny story. But yeah, I still have that old bike in my kampong in India. Speaking of India, that's where my touring experience began, when I bought a Tiger 800, and then I toured Ladakh at first. Then I carried on riding the whole of India in little bits and pieces. I covered north, south, east, west of India, 24,000 kilometers of India before COVID. And then after that, I met Nerine during COVID, and then we came up with this crazy plan basically. My idea was, I told her that, hey, you know what, once borders open, I will want to ride from here to India. And then Nerine was like, I want to do a camper van trip in Europe. Then she was like, you know what, if you're riding to India, in just 2 more countries, you reach Europe already. So might as well, we just carry on lah. We carry on from India until Europe. So that was the initial plan. Then when things reopened in COVID, the Myanmar-India border didn't reopen.
That's right.
So that's why we decided, okay, let's go through China. Then we ended up planning this thing.
Wow, China. But they see, there's a lot of restrictions over there, right?
Yes.
You need a tour guide and all that. Wow, did that really put a dent in your budget?
Yes, it did. Hefty dent.
Big dent.
There are various packages that you can choose from, those including accommodation and a support van, versus those where on the first day the guide just throws you an itinerary and says on time, on target. But you have to reach every single town every day and report and check in and say I have reached here. But you find your own accommodation, you find your own food, petrol kiosk. So those are cheaper options. Yeah. But because we went with my parents, my uncle as well, we decided to go for the more luxe option. This was with Ride China.
Includes all the accommodation and all that.
Accommodation was 4-star, food in general, except dinner and lunch, except petrol cost was also on us, things like that.
And the guide was with you all the time?
Yes.
Yes.
There was a Tibetan guide who brought us through all the way, and the driver of the support vehicle.
Support vehicles.
So we jump a bit, I guess now. So maybe we pedal back lah. So take us through maybe the planning process and the preparations. How long did it took you guys?
So it was from 2021, around mid-year, when we first talked about this plan. So 2021 until finally we departed on 20th January 2024. So that's almost about 2 years. We prepared by ourselves by first buying my Honda CRF 300. We had to do a couple of mods to oomph it up for the off-road terrain. As you know, the suspension is pretty soft so we had to do some upgrades. He had to do quite a bit to his bike as well. I'll let him talk about that later. Logistics and planning, planning our route. We actually got a lot of ideas from fellow overlanders, travelers. We watched some YouTubes, and then we thought, we have to go through China, so we do Southeast Asia, China, Central Asia, and then guess what? We actually never thought about doing Afghanistan. But we'll get to that later, why we finally decided to go there. So route-wise was quite straightforward. We knew roughly, the general direction we wanted to go. Financials, we are all both self-funded, through years of hard work and savings. And I think personally for me, the biggest challenge was to get support from my family. That I was going to quit my job, I was going to be away for a few years, or an undefined period, and I'm going to be on two wheels, because initially they weren't very happy with this idea.
Yeah, I think on my end, of course, preparing a bike is a big part of this trip. My bike is an old bike. It's a KTM 500 from 2013. So I had to pretty much overhaul the whole thing. And then something really interesting happened. Just before, about 6 months before the trip, I was doing a recce ride up. So me and a bunch of bikers went up to Sungai Lembing. And then the bike performed great on the way up. The bike performed great riding the off-road there. But on the way back, I basically forgot to check the oil, and the oil had burned off, and the oil had burned off, and the top end seized. Out somewhere near Kota Tinggi, bro. And then so the bike had to be towed back, and then the whole top end had to be replaced. Shout out to my boy Sherman Kang from Motogens, who basically.
Sherman, I love you. I still remember the video, by the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Sherman redid the whole bike, everything was fixed up, and then of course we looked over every last part of the bike. As you guys know, KTM, they always, like, a lot of people told me that, hey, this bike is not going to make it, you're going to have a lot of troubles.
To make it worse, the company bankrupt already.
And the company
I'm so sorry to add this.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. So I was actually like, you know what, the rate I'm going, I've actually never done a valve clearance on the bike. So I was like, at the rate I'm going, maybe I can do a valve clearance in Austria when I reach the main factory, right?
Yeah.
And now I don't know whether the factory is still going to be there. But should be lah. We'll see when we get there.
Okay.
So prepared the bike and everything. Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things. Of course, backlist and everything. We had to pack really light for our bike. So we are not carrying more than 30 to 35 kg of luggage.
Okay.
So you think about it, that's one check-in, bro. That's everything we have is one check-in.
Wow.
And that was the idea. We can explore anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I have to add on as well, one very important thing that we prepared ourselves for, mainly me, was just off-roading skills. So at around 2.5 years, we started out as, student teacher as well. He's a coach in off-roading, right? Or just general riding.
Yeah.
A flashback to the time when I did a little coaching for you, bro.
Oh my God.
Back when we first met. At Route 55.
For me at
there
least.
we go.
So that one we get to that later.
Yeah. So we did a lot of off-roading in Malaysia. Plentong, Kota Tinggi.
So you got your teeth bitten.
Yeah, with my very own bike as well. So I could test out its suspension.
Wow.
I almost flew over the handlebars a few times as well. So at least we knew what tweaks or what modifications to make after that.
Exactly.
And then just before our trip as well, we planned about a 3-week trip to Ladakh. I think you also went in the same year as us, Farhan.
Yes.
We went to Leh, Ladakh, and that was also another form of, practicing, bike handling and off-road terrain. Yeah, so that really geared us up for this trip, because we did lots of off-road, especially in Southeast Asia, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. So many interesting trails to do there, And it's a shame that, I think personally for myself, I never discovered that when I was younger. And these countries are, neighboring countries, they're so easily accessible.
Okay.
So much to explore.
Talking about your bikes, you're using the KTM 500. I guess why you chose that bike, because you already had that bike, right? And then for you, the CRF 300. Why the CRF 300?
So in that very long checklist that Haren had just now, basically I told him, it must be reliable, fuel efficiency, it must be good, this and that. And it cannot be too powerful for me. Because, you want to be confident in handling the bike as well. So I sat on his KTM 500 and I felt that, it was a bit too tall and very powerful. When you bring it off-road, I wasn't very confident in it. So I think he also suggested the CRF, because it's a tried and tested bike by Itchy Boots.
Itchy Boots, yes.
Yeah, when she rode, that bike for a few years. And it's a very manageable bike as well. We got that bike straight away without hesitation. He studied the full manual of the CRF. So I know the basics, how to diagnose some problems, oil change and that, but anything more technical, he's the mechanic or the workshop of the team.
The roving workshop.
Yeah, and I've grown to really love the bike and enjoy it. So if anyone really asks me what is a good dual sport bike, easy to manage and handle and reliable, easy to find parts as well, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend a CRF.
For me, basically, as you know, earlier I was riding a Tiger 800, and since then I've also ridden the F800 GS, I've ridden a Tenere 700, and I in fact had a Tenere 700 at home when I left for the trip, which I was trying to sell
And
off.
I'm shocked, why you guys never use those sort of middleweight adventure bikes for the trip.
Correct. So that is a hotly discussed topic nowadays.
Because I
that,
think if you approach other people like Rahim, for example, he
Yeah.
Oh,
would
GS.
get you a BMW,
Yeah.
die BMW.
Correct. So for us, I think it was mainly, number one, we knew that we like to explore. And we don't want to be at the mercy of the terrain. We want to be the ones conquering the terrain. So therefore All Terrain Overlanders. So that's why we knew we wanted a dual sport or enduro bike, which would be lightweight, easy to repair in the field, doesn't need big protective guards or everything, because simply the bike is very slim and lightweight. That the fuel economy is better than an adventure bike, so you don't need to carry much fuel to get around as well. We have never carried a spare fuel tank or anything. We never needed to. I have a 20-liter tank. It goes 450 kilometers.
Wow.
She has a 14-liter tank. It goes 450 kilometers. So just a little bit of petrol, we can go really far.
Yeah.
Yes, our cruising speed is not crazy. We cruise at 100 kilometers per hour. But you know what? Most of the third world developing countries, right? You're not going to be able to cruise that fast anyway. There's only a few portions. I would say China in the desert, not in Tibet, but in the desert for 3 days. We kind of missed having a slightly faster bike. Crossing the Kazakh steppe.
Kazakh.
About 1,200 kilometers, also kind of just straight road. We wish we had a faster bike.
Okay.
But otherwise, besides that, we've not missed having a faster bike at all. And honestly, if you want to cover a lot of distance, my idea is you just leave earlier in the morning. You sooner or later will reach. For example, in China, we did an 800 kilometer day.
Wow.
And
Okay.
a 700 kilometer day on our simple single cylinder dirt bikes.
Yeah, that's like from Singapore to Thailand.
Yeah.
800.
One day.
But earlier you mentioned the engine oil part, you need to change it out regularly because it dries out quickly, is it?
So for the KTM 500, it's like a performance dirt bike. It only holds 1.5 liters of oil, of which actually you only change 1.25 liters. So you can imagine the engine oil does get worn out pretty quickly because there's so little of it, and it's a high performance, big 500cc engine.
Yeah.
So usually wherever I can find oil, usually I trust Motul, so I will use Motul oil or whatever I can find, if not, and just change it out. And it's really easy to work on. KTM 500 was designed for the Dakar Rally. And then other motocross competitions, enduro competitions. So the bike is extremely easy to work on. To do an oil change, I just open 2 screws. To do a valve clearance, I open a total of 8 screws. On the bike. Yeah,
Okay.
so in 8 screws, I can take out my feeler gauge and check the valve clearances. So it's a really, really easy bike to work on. That's what I really enjoyed about it.
Oh my god. Was it nerve-wracking trying to work on your own bikes?
Not
For me,
really.
I'm not so hands-on, so I'm not really a mechanical person. I
No worries lah,
wouldn't
bro.
want to touch my own bike unless I really have to.
One day I come and teach you.
Oh my gosh. Can lah. My
Settle lah.
triumph sacrifice lah.
No, that one must wait 4 years later. Then
4 years later Okay, warranty void.
After
Right, I forget.
Yes.
So actually, right, Haren is super hands-on on mechanical stuff and servicing. He will want to do everything on his own. Even though we have recommendations to go to workshops which are reputable, he is very protective of his bike, and he wants to make sure that even if these mechanics are good, frankly speaking, one of them has actually stripped his screw, right?
screw,
in the engine oil. Yeah, so things like that can happen, and we cannot risk having such issues along the way because we cannot find a part. So for my bike, if it's cheap to send it to the workshop for an oil change, we will do it for a quicker to save time.
Okay.
But if not, he will be standing over me, watching me every step by step. Yeah, I'm not very good with mechanical stuff, but I still want to learn and be proficient at it. So yeah, I try to change my own oil and clean air filter my own.
Yeah, as they say, ultimately the best hands are your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one is going to treat your bike or with as much care as yourself. So wherever I can do the job on my own, I do it on my own. Only it's sometimes like it's a very messy job or technical job. I will really double check this mechanic is a nice guy. I like him, I like his vibe, I like his workshop. Then I trust him to work on the bike. Yeah, I'm a bit like that. I'm a bit finicky when it comes to these.
But I guess most of the time it's you will be the one.
Yeah, usually it's just me and her.
Even
working
for
on our own
your
bikes.
bike also you would.
Yeah,
also
because he's very familiar with my bike. If not, we have Sherman on call.
Sherman is on our hotline. So all the time, anything happens in the middle of
Marry me,
nowhere.
Sherman.
So you have the best person to ride around the world with.
That's why I invited him along.
Okay lah, invited, just go.
So hopefully this isn't too sensitive. But other than saving up from your work, how else you guys fund for the trip?
Really, just savings
Just savings.
and maybe some investments here and there.
Did you
I
guys
think-
work along the way? Like maybe on the trip you guys never work?
So we thought, right, because we could, the idea of digital nomad,
That's what I
is
meant.
so popular, But frankly speaking, we both don't really have very digital related skills.
Okay.
Like for example, he's very hands-on, and if he wants to apply his mechanical skills, you have to physically be there. It's
Yeah,
hard,
correct.
For me, my last profession was a lawyer. I was a legal counsel in TikTok. And to review contracts on the go is not easy lah. We want to fully immerse and invest ourselves into this journey without letting work or part-time work, online work get in the way. So that was our mentality about it. Even returning back to Singapore, some friends are like, hey, take up a stint lah, a short contract, contract work. But then we knew that this 1 month in Singapore is Chinese New Year. You want to meet friends and family, and we just want to be able to really enjoy this time with our loved ones here. So no time for work lah. So everything is really through savings, and we also budget our spending quite tightly, such as accommodation, food, servicing. We have an Excel sheet that we very diligently update as we spend along the way.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, sometimes it's about the mentality. So some people are like, oh, you're planning to do this for a long time, you got to make it part of your lifestyle, you got to make money out of it. But for me, I see this as an education, like a college degree. I'm investing this money in myself to learn about a trip, to create a CV, to maybe one day do something else bigger than this. That's how I see it. So to me, I'm just like, I'll expense, I'll enjoy myself, I will immerse myself fully in this. I will do some social media on the side. So guys, of course, a little shout out to myself, to ourselves,
follow them,
All Terrain
Instagram,
Overlanders. Instagram is our main channel. We might do a little bit of YouTube just for the highlights, but mainly everything's on Instagram. But you can see it's mostly like a journal. We want to interact with our audience. It's mostly a journal to show what we are doing. And then one day, hopefully we can do something in the bike industry or something along those lines. Maybe we'll collaborate with you guys for one of your tours or something
We love
next
to,
time.
man. We love to.
Definitely. Well, but that means must go off road and all that.
Haha, first take lessons.
I want to say something about that. My off-road experience is little to minimal, even though I went to Tommy's course, the Route 55 course, which you were there, and I went to Ladakh also, but that was okay actually, surprisingly. But I think we did an off-road kind of thing at Batam quite recently on dirt bikes, and I tell you, I sucked. I fell down too many times to count, and I was so exhausted.
It's okay, it always starts that way.
Oh my gosh, I was like, So definitely I can see from your pictures and your stories, you guys seem to be taking the route less taken. Mostly off-road riding, I reckon. And honestly speaking, I think for us, I think for me especially, it's not easy. Not tiring.
Tiring.
Okay.
We'll get
It's
like
tiring.
backache, arm ache, and sometimes I get random aches at parts where I'm like, hey, I'm standing and riding, I don't use that muscle. But then I realize it's because when I fall, I might have hit something, or when I'm struggling to lift the bike, you use other muscles. So it's really a full body workout that I look forward to whenever we do off-road.
I think just to add, when I've coached a lot of people, I think I coached about 50 students, usually one-to-one already. And what I find is when beginners go off-road, if they don't have some basic core skills and techniques, right, they tend to become very stiff,
They tense up.
and then because of that tenseness, you guys feel very tired very fast,
Yeah.
even though you're not doing anything crazy yet. So it's about building those fundamentals somewhere where it is easier to ride, and then taking those fundamentals and then going to the trail, and then you're more calm. You know your posture is supposed to be, how is it supposed to be, how you're supposed to ride, and then taking it from there lah. Honestly, it is not a difficult thing to ride off-road. It's just mostly a different thing to riding on road.
For our off-road ride in Batam, we were thrown into the deep end immediately.
Yes.
So that's why, after riding for some time, actually, we asked them, so how long have we ridden? We thought it's like an hour or so. Oh, about 15 minutes.
Oh, and it felt forever, no?
I think you all were mentally exhausted already.
Yeah.
So I can imagine.
So yeah.
But towards the end, I enjoyed it, and I don't know, I may be addicted to it, you know?
There we go.
It was fun towards the end because we were like, okay, we finally got the hang of it. Then we enjoyed the last trail, the very last one before we got out. I'm like, finish already.
Okay. The second part, right?
The second part, yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about off-road riding, right? Like even if you are a road rider, you can use off-road as a way to hone your skills, right? Because from riding on a perfectly good traction, 1 lane, 2 lane, 3 lane road, now you are forced to ride in a little tiny trail which is covered in algae lah, mud lah, clay, and then your every control, every posture, every reaction to the bike has to be much more precise. And then after you come back to the main road, like normal road, well, this is too easy. It's so easy to ride on the road, you know. So it helps to make you a better and safer rider.
Now we know for a fact that you guys are a couple, and at times, I know it's not a bed of roses every time. So how you overcome dealing with each other's moods and emotions during the trip?
Wow, you like this kind of juicy stuff.
He's looking on juicy gossip.
Yeah, boy.
Not bad, right? What bed of roses?
Not bad, not bad, right? My question.
Oh, you write fantasy novel all lah.
I used to write fanfics back in my
fanfic.
day when I was a nerd.
Was
I was a nerd in high school Maybe is can say is yeah.
Oh my
You're
god.
very bad, are you very bad?
Oh, he's the kind who probably bully me
So sorry to disappoint you lah. We are actually very harmonious in our trip.
that's
There are no like blown out quarrels or shouting, that sort of thing. Or we've never like walked away from each other because we were so upset with each other. But of course there are tense moments as well. But these tense moments aren't caused because or he's being a bully or I'm being mean to him or anything. It's usually caused by environmental or circumstantial factors. So just to give out some examples but it might sound very trivial. Maybe it's just too damn hot out there, like in a 42-degree heat, and maybe we're getting lost in the jungle. Then I might get very frustrated and like, hey, hurry up lah, let's just get out of here. And maybe my tone may not be very nice. And I think that kind of started out, when we were in Thailand. It was really 42 degrees, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. We were there in March and April. But at the end of the day, when I think back and reflect, did I really have to be so, impatient with him? Because at the end of the day, it's not his fault that, it's not that he intended to get lost. He's also trying to find a way out, Everything comes from good intention. So that's what we remind ourselves, to be patient and understanding towards each other. And another example that I always give as well is, so he's an off-roading coach, right? Each time I drop the bike, lecture on the Gado, Then I have to tahan, if I tell him, hey, stop talking, it's a bit rude, right? So I would try to tahan. But there was once when I just couldn't take it anymore because it's so easy why you drop, He wasn't frustrated, he was more like, but why do you really drop the bike, Being a bit technical about it. And I think I was just hurt emotionally and I started tearing. I started crying. But then again, at the end of the day, he just wanted to help me become a better rider by, giving these instructions and helping me clear those obstacles. So we don't take things too hard like that, and that's how we get over, these tense scenarios which are caused by external factors.
So it's not couples advice. I think this is general advice to anytime you're out with a team or with other people is, being mindful of these things. Like I also didn't know, then she told me that like, okay, it's like I won't give you so much technical advice, especially when it starts to get really difficult and people are starting to get more worked up about and exhausted as well by the riding. It's perhaps just better to rest for a while, take a break, and then resume.
And debrief later.
And then debrief later on instead.
Not on the spot.
Not on the spot.
So we are both we both treat challenges with a very problem solving oriented mindset. So when we deal with a problem, it's not because you did this then you just start faulting each other. You chose this route, why so stupid? None of that. We're like, okay, let's see, time is running out, sun is going to set, how do we get across there? And work things out. There's no blame game and all that, because all these are just frivolous things that will just ruin a relationship, and we have a long time spent together, 24/7 together. We only have each other, so all these maintaining of peace and harmony has to be top priority. Right?
I think also actually one thing you think about is when it comes to these duties, it's quite segregated. So like Nerine will say where we want to go, I will decide like how we get there. So if we get lost, it's completely my responsibility to get us out of there. For example. So that we know we're not going to like fight over, you should have taken this route, taken that route. It's like, this is the route that I had planned, so we will try to take this route or vice versa.
I'm impressed actually.
Satisfied?
Satisfied. I think it helps that you guys are in the same wavelength also. And I think through this 11 months, you guys have probably known each other better lah. Wow.
For sure.
I mean even for our trips, can be a few days.
I know Fahan doesn't like me snoring lah.
Well, who likes snoring? But the good thing about him is, he said if he snores, I'm allowed to peck his face.
During the trips, we also have our own antics from that. So
our own antics and quirks lah. And I think so far,
and that's just a few days, no?
Imagine 11 months. Border crossings are probably the most nerve-wracking part of any around the world trip lah. Which one is the most difficult, you'd say?
Laos, Cambodia, my friends. They are so corrupt over there, right? It's crazy. So, okay, I'll tell you the story. We show up. 1 week before, someone told us, hey, go and get this form. It's called the bike passport. So basically, it's an invitation from the Laos embassy. We were in Cambodia at the time. So it's an invitation from Laos embassy that we paid $20 for. And they say, once you have this passport, they will let you through. If you don't have the passport, it's 50-50. We rock up to the border. We say, hi, we are here to go to Laos. The guy on the Cambodia side, straight away, the security guard, never even entered the building yet. Go back, border closed. We are like, what? No, we have the invitation. Oh, you have invitation. Okay, go inside. You go and talk to him. Maybe you can cross.
Maybe.
Okay. Okay. Big guy comes. So big boss isn't even wearing a uniform. Makes us come sit inside his office.
Some apek white t-shirt also.
Apek wearing white t-shirt, all chappal, all okay. You want to go to Laos? Yes, sir. Cannot. Go back. But we have invitation. Oh, you have invitation. Okay. Our system is down. I can try to get it started, but I need some help. I'm like so blatant at the guy. So blatant.
But he like that at you lah.
Yes. He like this. I need some help. I'm like,
but you were nonchalant about it.
I completely nonchalant. I was like, you tried to get the system started, took out my phone, started scrolling Facebook. Just started. I knew this was a waiting game and a time game, right? It cannot be that the border is closed because locals need to go up and down. I'm seeing people move through. So I just played the waiting game. Half an hour became 45 minutes. After a while, he said, okay, system not working. You need to go back to the town, which is 70 kilometers of off-road back to the town, gravel road, to go again.
The town is called All Terrain. Okay, and this is the only border between Cambodia and Laos. So if we couldn't cross that border, we had to go into Thailand. And then Thailand maybe friendship bridge 4 or 3 and cross into Laos. So we were very determined to cross at this border, and we were very sure that our paperwork was all, very gao and complete. This guy was just, BSing us lah.
Yeah. Complete BS. So we just carried on wasting his time. Finally, I think he cracked. So he said, oh, okay, system started working. Nothing changed. He never touched his computer, nothing. Oh, system started working. He called in this geeky looking guy to come in. Within 5 minutes, he processed us out. We didn't pay $1. Okay, never mind. We went to the Laos side. Go to the Laos side. Hi, we are here to cross into the country. Okay, 2 Singaporean, $100. They're like, no.
We said for what?
You said no. Oh my god.
You just said no.
I would have said yes, bruh.
Should we take a wallet?
That's
Okay. 2 Singaporean, $50. I said, whoa, 50% discount already? No. 50, then he became $30, $20. We just kept saying, we have the invitation. Your country has invited us to visit Laos, right? So you can't possibly be charging us money. Like if you want to charge us money, you call this guy whose number is here and you talk to him. And if he says that we must be charged money, we'll pay. Finally, right, we paid $3.
3
Per person lah.
From 100
Yeah.
From 100 to 3.
This is the combo.
And we got receipt.
So $6 we paid, and I said, I want receipt. I want to know what I'm paying for. Then in Laos they have that D34 sticker. Some sticker lah, basically something for like
Temporary
import permit for the bikes. And the receipt showed $8. So we're like, who scammed who? We paid $6, but he gave us $8 receipt. Okay, go.
We just saw, we're like, okay, this doesn't add up, never mind, we're getting out of here, and we went. So actually, it was weird. The Laos-Cambodia border crossing, you have to be a bit smart about it. Get the bike passport or whatever, forge something, make up some excuse. Sometimes you have to think on your feet lah. That's the most important thing. I think our main strategy for border crossing is we just mentally prepare we're going to be there for the whole day. So we arrive there earlier in the morning, 10 o'clock or so, and we prepare we're going to be there until the end of the day. And then we plan where we're going to stay at the nearest city near the border or town near the border. If we get off early, good, we go further away. If not, then no choice, we just stay nearby.
But don't you guys have this fear whereby if you say no, then they throw you into the jail or something?
They have no reason to do that.
No reason to do that.
I think my background, knowing law,
that you are,
knowing law, I kind of know my rights as well.
Yeah.
But of course, first thing first, we need to make sure our paperwork is complete. Since you're on this topic of border crossings, you'll be surprised. We cross so many borders in Central Asia where probably being in a country so developed like Singapore, you'll think, Central Asia, when you cross Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, probably got problem over there for border crossing. But no, it was very smooth, surprisingly, across all these countries. The officers there, some could even speak good English. We were very welcoming and guided us through the whole process.
And bike is like VIP there, by the way.
Oh.
So there they don't have a separate bike and car queue. But if you show up in a bike, right, the guards will wave you all the way to the front at every queue. And that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think our fastest border crossing was 20 minutes, both sides.
Seriously.
Cross through just like faster than checkpoint.
Which border was it?
I can't remember.
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
We show up, the guy comes to our bike, take our passport and registration, bring to the counter, get it stamped, pass back to us, and we carry on. We never yet left the bike.
VIP service.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Wow.
Very nice.
And like in Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos as well, the customs booth is different from the immigration's booth. Then you have to hop around, right? Over there is all in one, 2 or 3 in one.
Okay.
And insurance is also not mandatory, so it's up to you to ride at your own risk or purchase one on your own separately. Yeah, so it was very smooth over there overall. And also one tip, in case since you're overlanding as well, you always print out your LTA log card, right? And then it's just one piece of paper that you show around. Within Southeast Asia, they know that Singapore is like that. It's just a piece of paper. It's not some official looking card. But once you get into Central Asia and so on, including like Turkey, Georgia, these guys, right, when they look at our paper, they're like, oh, is this is not original? We're like, no, this is original. We even have, either the certified true copy stamp or the LTA registrar stamp, right?
Yeah.
You have that. No. Even my 5-year-old can print this and photocopy this.
Which is true.
Photoshop this.
Yeah.
So we are rejected a few times, and we just had to be very persistent and show them, no, this is original. So learning from these experiences in the last 11 months, especially in Central Asia and parts of Europe, we have now decided to laminate the LTA log card just to make it look more official.
More official.
And carry two. Carry a spare. Because it starts to get cui after a few border crossings.
Yeah.
So we saw that you guys spent a lot of time in Central Asia.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and the media always portrays it to be a hostile, restrictive kind of thing, given that they used to be part of the Soviet Union. Is it true when you were there?
Great success!
Borat.
The
Borat.
first thing, when people think about Kazakhstan, they think about Borat. And it's so weird and it's so wrong because no one in Kazakhstan looks like Borat. Everyone kind of looks like Singaporeans actually. Most Kazakhs look like Chinese Singaporeans. Up to like Caucasian look is a kind of, that kind of spread over there. So people look very different. People were generally quite nice, and everything was actually really nice and peaceful in Central Asia.
Yeah.
People very much still nomadic lifestyle. I mean, in the cities, of course, you have people with normal jobs. It's very much developed there. And then you go on into the outskirts, and then you have a nomadic lifestyle back to goat herding, sheep herding. So it was actually really, really nice. You had mountains, you had deserts, you had grasslands, lakes. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I would say at no point in time did I feel that there was any sense of hostility. Russian influence to some extent, yes, maybe a bit of the food, language actually. So Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, most of the people, in fact, 95% of the people we spoke to spoke Russian to us as well. So that, and with Haren picking up the Russian language and basics of that, he could hold conversations with them, he could order food, book hotel rooms, things like that. So it really helped. It wasn't necessary to learn local Kazakh or Kyrgyz or Tajik language. And they were very welcoming and warm, no hostility, except that I would say when we were in Tajikistan, we rode through the Wakhan Valley, which is basically part of Tajikistan that is separated from Afghanistan by a river. And because of Afghanistan having the history, decades of war-torn areas, that part of Tajikistan had especially high security. There was lots of security and armed officers just patrolling that highway that we were riding through. And that highway wasn't actually like a nice tarmac highway. It was completely off-road and very, very wild. So that was the only time when I felt that there was some tension or was a bit intense in that period. I had to be very mindful about how I behave and my safety as well. But other than that, people were extremely welcoming, very curious about us when they see our bike plates. And we were also very respectful of the culture.
Yeah. I think there's a general idea that anything that is ex-Soviet means that there is some Russian influence, and as though like the Russians are these barbarians that are here to. Honestly, we had an amazing time in Kazakhstan. People were nice. Kyrgyzstan, amazing. Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, amazing. And we went to Russia as well. People were amazing. We had a blast in Russia. The food was good. People were very friendly. We had lots of good conversations, met lots of very, very well-known figures in the bike circles there in Russia as well. They would, it's like anywhere in Asia where they would invite you to the house and next thing you have tea come out and cakes come out, It's very much like an Asian culture, even though you see like, the person looks Caucasian, but it's like very much Asian culture to invite people, sign the guest book. And then we went to Mongolia. Mongolia was, again, people were very friendly. And I think it's just this whole nomadic thing that, we welcome whoever comes to our homestead. And we treat them like guest is the king kind of mentality.
Speak some Russian for us, please.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
Привет.
Я сингапурский. Я приехали из Сингапура отсюда. Which means I've come from Singapore to here, which is what I would usually say when someone says, where have you come from?
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
So you picked up Russian during the trip?
Yes.
Before that was
zilch. Zero.
Zilch.
Awesome. So I'll tell you what we do is, now you guys are probably like, you guys are riding dirt bikes. Isn't it boring on the highway? Right? And yes, it's boring on the highway. So what do? Put on a podcast, learn the language for the next country we're going to.
okay.
So on the way out of China in the Taklamakan Desert, 1,500 kilometers, that's where I just went Zdravstvuyte, Zdravstvuyte, Zdravstvuyte 1,000 times. Priятно познакомиться 1,000 times. And then I went to, and then it came really in handy in the whole ex-Soviet area. And then coming out of Kazakhstan, crossing the Kazakh steppe, I started to learn Farsi. So Khobhasti, Man as Singapore, Amadim 1,000 times. So that when I went to Afghanistan and Iran, I could speak the languages there. And likewise on the way out of Georgia, you started to learn Turkish.
Don't test me on my Turkish. I think I forgot half already. But
Scary.
Merhaba.
Listeners. So we use the time to learn. Like, it's not wasted time to us. We started to use this time to learn the language. Straight away we reach the country, we hit the ground running, right? We can speak at least a hello, how are you, thank you, welcome. We can get by a bit, and then from there we can pick up very quickly.
And people are so appreciative of that when we try, to explore their language as well.
So
and that
really-
actually breaks the ice and get them to interact with us. And when they realize, hey, these guys actually know limited words, they will put in effort to Google Translate and communicate with us because they have seen that we have tried as well.
So our next Thailand trip, read the whole highway.
I only know
we switch on podcast and put it on our Discord.
Podcast. So the app is podcast. Just
No, YouTube.
YouTube, podcast, wherever.
Whatever.
I tell you the
Cheat code.
technique, the cheat code. Okay, first go on YouTube or a podcast and ask for all the basic phrases. Then you learn all the basic phrases, right? You understand how the language sounds. And then you like, okay, it's like, Russian is more like, there's a lot of tongues, and then you learn that, and then you go and ChatGPT. ChatGPT, make me a Russian dictionary with common phrases transliterated to English. So you don't need to learn how to read the language. You just want to learn how to speak the language, right?
Okay.
And you don't want to learn what cat, dog, grandma, grandpa, all this. You want to learn like conversational stuff, right? Hello, thank you, goodbye, bye bye. And what's the first question anyone sees you with a motorbike? The first thing they'll ask is, where are you from? In Russian, that would be Atkuda vy. And in Persian that would be like Kujain. So then you just need to learn how to respond to these phrases.
And then where's the toilet?
Where's the toilet? One
Toilet.
room for one night. Do you have a room? Simple things like
okay lah. So you don't need Duolingo.
That's what I was going to
that.
say.
Duolingo.
What they teach you? Do you have pets? That kind of thing.
Cat, dog, apple. Like, you don't need to know these things.
Yeah, I know, right? Damn, bro. Okay, so we saw a lot of cultural exchanges with locals during your trip. What's the most memorable so far?
Wow, okay, I want to share this. Okay, there were two very specific ones. In case you want to show the photo on your video, I can send it to you separately. So the first one was in Kazakhstan. We were actually heading to the border of Russia because we were transiting through Russia to Mongolia. And we were riding, usually Haren in front because he navigates, right? And I was behind. And we were on a nice tarmac highway, cruising 100 kilometers per hour. Then this car came behind, tailgating me, and I'm very sensitive over these things because I don't get injured, right? Or rammed over. So I kept checking my rearview mirror. I was like, hey, Haren, this car kept tailgating. Let's just slow down and let this guy overtake. So I slowed down and I did this. This guy still hung around behind. So I thought, okay, never mind. Maybe let's go faster. We sped up. This guy also came along. So I was like, getting a bit annoyed already. What's his problem? Is he trying to play around with us? So then this car suddenly overtook us and outstretched a lady's hand with a huge Kazakh flag, like this bright blue flag. And she just waved at Haren, waved frantically. Then he just, hello, waved back. I'm like, no, Gundu, he's asking you to take the flag.
Oh.
Then he was like, it's very big, how to take, because it's huge.
It's a
huge flag. It's not that kind of waving National Day kind of flag. It's a huge flag. Then I was like, take the flag lah, because she was waving for like 30 seconds already. And I got it all on video. It was really cool. So he grabbed on the flag, tucked it under his armpit, and then we slowly stopped the bike.
No, first I waved it around, but it was like all crumpled up.
Yeah. So he waved it, tried his best to open it up, and then he went ahead. Then the hand came out again. The car slowed down to me, give me a Mars bar. I was like, shit, this one even harder to take, because Mars bar, how short I am. So finally I took the Mars bar, and then we signaled them to stop because we really wanted to have a chat with them. And they could speak good English, and they were very welcoming towards towards us. So we actually explained, sorry, we're actually on our way out of your country, and thanks for the flag, thanks for your gesture. But this is your country's flag, take it back. They're like, no, keep it, please, it's for you. So they were full of pride about their country, and I think they were very happy to see us, bringing our bikes all the way to the country and exploring all over the place. So that was one really good interaction. And later on at night, they brought us out for a meal as well. So it was very sweet
nice.
of these two sisters lah. The other occasion also was in Iran. Again, highway, I was behind Haren. I told him, there's this car tailgating us and I don't feel good about it. But I tell you, Iranian drivers are maniacs. It was the one country that I felt like I could possibly die in this country from a road accident.
Wow.
Insane. So basically the car was tailgating. I'm like, is something wrong? Let this car go. Didn't want to go, So, we were playing the game for a bit. I was trying to, ride off. But this car just kept following us. Suddenly it overtook, went forward beside Haren, and he kept having some gestures to Haren. Next moment I hear Haren telling me, I think this guy wants us to stop. He was showing me a photo on his phone. Okay.
Bro was an enduro rider.
Oh,
he was an off-road rider, and he was trying to show me photos of his Honda dirt bike while driving like that. And I was like, bro. So we stopped. He tells us more about him being and he doesn't speak English, by the way, so he's just talking in Persian. This is me and I ride an enduro bike and I live in Tehran and we should ride together. So excited.
Yeah.
Middle-aged guy, just happened to be driving back home, and then he goes to the back and takes out a watermelon.
Rock melon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fresh produce, and he's like, this is for you.
Like that. So while Haren was talking to the guy, his friend in the car came and gave me the rock melon. I said, oh, thank you so much, but no space. Then he said, no. Then he insisted opening my bag, helping me stuff it in like that. So I so paiseh. Then I just, okay lah, take thank you so much. Then my bag was lopsided for the rest of the journey, but luckily we are reaching the town already. Yeah. So very kind and sweet gestures. Yeah.
We've had of course, as you travel, honestly speaking, after a while, the terrain starts to look the same. Mountains kind of still look the same. Certain things are highlights here and there, but one thing is the people. When you travel, you see how the people change, how the culture change, how the language change. You realize it is not like immediate change from one culture to the next. There's a transition. Right? Like how Persian has like 20 or 30% overlap with languages, Indian languages like Hindi. So that's why I could pick it up pretty quickly. How the Chinese people also gradually become Central Asian people. You have a Chinese looking person, but by religion they're Muslim. And then you cross Kyrgyzstan and they all kind of also look Chinese and they're Muslim. It's not night and day difference.
Yeah.
It is a transition, and seeing this transition and appreciating the culture as it transitioned, I think was a very, very interesting thing for us to see.
So with all these nice experiences with people, but were there any situations where you felt really threatened by the people or any hostile situations?
Yes, there was not many. I think number one, being street smart is very important when you're on a trip like this, sensing when things are not right. For example, two times, I would say two cases, both were in Afghanistan, where we were a bit more careful for obvious reasons. One was where you had actually spoken to a group of ladies in Afghanistan, and they had very nicely, young ladies had invited us to their house for dinner. And this is not exactly as per what the current government there likes people to do, which is, hang out with the locals. They don't want you to interact with the locals too much, especially young ladies.
Okay.
But they had extended the invitation to us. So they gave us a Google pin, and this was like sun had set already. We're going to their place for dinner, and I expected that place to be somewhere near the city center. We started to drive, and I was like, whoa, we have left the market. Then we left the city, then we left no street lights, nothing. So we are going into the fields. And I was like, wow, we are going into farmland with farmhouses.
And complete darkness.
Complete darkness. We were really it's just pitch black now.
But somehow you still can see, right?
Somehow we had our headlight, we were riding. And then I was like, Nerine, this doesn't feel right. Okay, even if they have good intentions, we don't know whether their neighbors or their family might have something up. Everyone's got guns there, and all it takes is one person to pull out his AK-47 and say, okay, now you do everything as I say. Number three, if we are quite a sore thumb, right? We are riding big dirt bikes and all of that, and we had the sabbatical living family. Your JC friends Ritesh and Nisha coming in their giant big green Land Rover.
So they were with you.
They were also coming for this dinner, and I was like, if someone from the Taliban is tailing us just to keep an eye on us, those girls could get into a lot of trouble. Because this is not exactly a very bustling public area. It is a quiet area where anything moves through, people will know. So then I say, something doesn't feel right. I think we ask them for another meal during daylight hours is better. And we turned back, and then we actually went to like a more tourist kind of restaurant, a more like serve Western food kind of restaurant. And we sat down. Within 5 minutes, a Taliban official came down, looking very angry. And I was like, okay guys, everyone just say we got lost. And then he comes and he's like, why are you not in Kabul? And we were just 2 hours out of Kabul, in another town just out of Kabul. And he's like, why are you not in Kabul? And we're like, no sir, we are staying here today. We have a booking in this town today. We had no intention to leave this place today. It's like, no, she was supposed to be in Kabul. They're like, huh? Then he takes out a picture on his phone, and it's a Chinese lady on a KTM 390 adventure. And I was like, he was like, she's not this person. And then he was like, do you know this person? And then I'm like, no, I don't know this person. So he was actually, he had his eyes out, and basically I think this lady, whoever she was, we couldn't figure out who she was basically, I think she had left this town where we were, Bamiyan, for Kabul. And they have many checkpoints, and they actually track all foreigners and their movements. And I think she hadn't reported at the next checkpoint within a kind of threshold amount of time, so they were starting to try and figure out where she was. Luckily we had turned back, because if not, they would have started to find where we were. Maybe they thought we were her, and they would have found us at their lady's house, and they could have gone into a lot of trouble.
So just for some context, it's generally not allowed for locals to invite foreigners to their house for homestay, stayovers or meals. And especially these were a young group of girls between 14 and 18 years old. And these are girls, which are, it makes things even more sensitive, because in Afghanistan, males and females who are not related to each other, they are not supposed to interact. And you see a lot in the news as well that women are also not supposed to go around public on their own. They have to be escorted by a male relative or companion. So we also didn't want to get these girls into trouble, although we were very warmly invited to their homes. So it's only the next day we told these girls, sorry we didn't make it to your homes, but we invite you to our hotel, which was like a guest house hostel for tea. And of course, before that, we also spoke to our guest house owner and said, is it okay to have these girls over? Because we understood the sensitivity of things.
So it was, we had this kind of interesting, slightly tense scenarios. Another time in another Afghan town, what happened was, it was a bit more of a remote town. Like tourists didn't really go there. And we went to the petrol pump to fill petrol, and suddenly a whole crowd started to gather around us. Very normal kind of thing in Afghanistan, sometimes also Pakistan, India, that people are just very curious. So you see someone, they're not like afraid to just gather and like, what's this, where are you from? You're not asked 1,000 questions. But there were these two, usually they're very polite Assalamu alaikum, Kovaste, Khojain, blah 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 blah. But these guys were just like, hello. How much for this bike? You give me this bike. A bit more hostile.
Trying to be funny kind of thing.
Yeah, trying to be funny, trying to be extra. I just ignored them. Haren Nerine, you just ignore them, but if they touch you, let me know. So I just kind of gave them the cold shoulder. Then we drove off. They started chasing behind us, revving around near us. Luckily, I was on my way to the Taliban HQ because we needed our permit stamped. So I just stopped the bike. I said, look, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to set the Taliban on you. And I took a photo of them. I immediately rode off, angry road, to the Taliban HQ, all the guards there, M4, M16. Assalamualaikum, Kubasti, shook hands with them, those two guys, disappeared, bro. So, people generally do fear the Taliban there. Of course, the Taliban, they were quite nice to foreigners, but no doubt also they have not been very nice to the locals. It is a kind of 50-50 thing right now there. But hope the country gets better with time. Yeah. So these were a couple of things that happened to us on the trip, I think, where situation was a bit tenser than normal. Yeah.
But before entering Afghanistan, I'm sure you all heard of all this.
Yes, yes.
So why did you all decide to go
So how
in?
it started off was, it was just word of mouth and feedback from some other overlanders who told us, oh, Afghanistan is lovely, Iran is awesome as well. And I think we just got inspired by their bravery of going through Afghanistan and the interesting stories. And we were also very curious to explore what is it beyond what the media has been showing us. So we did a lot of research, watched countless YouTube videos to just get a sense of what a country is like, before Taliban, what a country is like now, read up on the news just to be aware of what's going on there. And then with an open mind, we told ourselves, now we are prepared, we are always, together, we shouldn't, go separately and, pick up a bit of the language and let's just go for it.
Yeah. I think one of the big concerns for us was local women in Afghanistan not allowed to operate motor vehicles. Even cycling is a grey area.
Oh, okay.
So we were not sure whether Nerine would be subject to these rules, and what we heard from other overlanders was that it depends on the guy at the checkpoint that day, whether he wants to allow you or not as a lady. So I was like, whoa. So how I present myself, how friendly I am, and how respectful of the culture that we tend to, how much they like us, basically depends on whether she gets to ride or not. So that's where we decide, okay, let's go in, let's try. Worst case, you have to tow your bike, but at least let's try to be nice and jovial. But then we realized other overlanders were coming through, ladies, no worries. So then we
only because they were escorted by a male companion. So we presented ourselves as a married couple. And same for other women who were operating their own vehicles as well. They were never solo. So a lot of restrictions, especially for women there. Yeah.
And I think why we chose Afghanistan, so at the early part we actually rode along the Wakhan Valley where we are bordering with Afghanistan, and we are looking into Afghanistan for like 4 days, 5 days. And it was just these beautiful mountains. It looked so wild and so
very inviting,
undeveloped. It was just so wild. And the funny thing is, at some point the river will be so narrow, we could see the people on the other side very clearly, and we would wave at them
like Salam Alaikum,
Salam Alaikum, shout at them, and they'll be happily wave back Salam Alaikum. And I was like, there's something there, there's something about this place. It's like so fortified, so in the media and whatnot. There's so much to understand. And our first plan was to go through Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan, again, you have to apply for a tour and everything to go in, which was going to cost us a lot of money, number one. Number two, the thing is you have to apply for a visa to go in. And at that time, Israel and Iran had a lot of tensions, missiles were flying at each other, and people were saying, war is going to break out any time. So we're like, if we go into Turkmenistan and we cross, and then war breaks out, now we've paid the deposit, we've paid the money, how do we then get back? If the war breaks out, how do we get back to Uzbekistan from Turkmenistan? We'll get stuck there. So then we thought maybe it's safer, although it's a bit of a gamble, that we go into Afghanistan, because if anything happens, we can turn back. On time, on target, turn back. With Turkmenistan, it could be a big question mark what happens. And then finally some up and down and stuff, and then we thought, okay, let's just go for it. Of course, we met the sabbatical living family, and then we met them only in Uzbekistan. We didn't know of them earlier. Big shout out to Ritesh and Nisha, and of course Arisha. Amazing time with them. And we kind of like decided, hey, if we stick together, we should be alright.
Safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers.
And we really watched out for each other. We also reported, 5 of us reported ourselves to MFA to say, hey guys, we are actually going to Afghanistan and Iran. So watch our backs. MFA, so Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Also shout out to the officers and the team there because they were very proactive. They gave us a call and said, well, our travel advisory says that you all shouldn't go to these countries, but if you all have no choice because you have your vehicles, fine. We'll set up a WhatsApp group chat with all of us, including Ritesh and Nisha and the officers. And every day they would be, promptly checking up on our updates and safety, whether we have reached the next town, things like that, until we were out of Iran. Yeah, so they kept a very close watch on us and, helped us through as well when we wanted information on what the situation is what the situation is really between Israel and Iran.
Okay.
So Singapore authorities were very on the ball with us and really appreciate that.
I think come to the last few questions. What's your takeaway from this ride thus far, and what do you hope to achieve at the end of this adventure?
I think one thing that I really took away is, you see me, I'm half Chinese, half Indian, right? I don't exactly look like a local here. I don't exactly look like a local in India when I go back. I obviously don't look very Chinese. Now this is the first time I managed to go somewhere where people do not hesitate to see me as a local. Until I say I'm from Singapore, they refuse to believe I'm from Singapore. When I went through Tajikistan, Afghanistan and Iran, even to some extent Turkey, Georgia, Armenia, people are like, huh? You are Singaporean? Cannot be. They are like in disbelief. And that was really interesting. And just seeing how the people change, appreciating the culture and appreciating how much peace we have in Singapore. You look at Singapore geographically, we're at the little corner of the Eurasian landmass, right? We don't have a big history of wars and being conquered and then conquering other civilizations. And then the moment you leave Singapore, you actually realize there's just been so much war, so much suffering, so much turmoil in the rest of the world. Then you start to appreciate, Singapore's actually been really peaceful, and you wonder, could the rest of the world one day become like that as well, where we are more harmonious and more peaceful.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of these sort of learnings are very enlightening and brings back memories of my history lessons in school days that I never really focused in, and just memorized for the sake of memorizing and regurgitating in O and A levels. But it really comes to light, when people talk about the Soviet Union, Genghis Khan and his, Mongol army, how far they invaded all the way, they even reached, Turkey, things like that really came to light. And we visited a lot of museums across these countries as well. And when you go to these museums or you hear stories from locals, you get the full picture and you really appreciate how history has evolved, how human and communities have evolved over centuries. And so with that greater appreciation of history, we also appreciate how these communities are developed, and you develop more understanding and empathy towards them. Yeah, I think that's what you have learned a lot, and broadens your perspective as well. Yeah, even like the Russia-Ukraine war and Iran-Israeli conflict. Being in Singapore, we aren't really impacted very much about it. Yes, we see things in the news, but I think once you see, how much, like Haren said, suffering and conflict that people have gone through, you will also, have more empathy and understanding towards them in your own day-to-day interactions as well. Yeah.
Wow.
So your second question, what do you hope to achieve, from now, right? Of course, building a better bond and stronger bond with Haren, our relationship, I think it's really strong and going on very well. We've got quite a few more, maybe couple of years, quite along to go in our journey. So right now, this year, we plan to explore the whole of Europe, up to Norway, Balkans, and then down to UK, Scotland, Ireland for about 3 months. And then by the end of this year, we'll be in Morocco.
Crossover to
I thought it's ending at the UK?
No. So it's a bit misleading, right?
Yeah.
I think we just put UK because it's like a very convenient and common port to ship the bikes back. But we, really want to explore the off-roads and the wild, remote parts of Africa. And it's doable. Look at Rahim. He is taking a very interesting route crossing Zambia, Zimbabwe, and we are keeping an eye out on his route as well, just in case we take something similar. And after Africa, that would be at least mid 2026. yeah, and we're not sure where else our bikes bring us to after that.
Nice.
We're gonna take how many years to travel?
Really the itchy boots of Singapore. No?
Who's
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow. I'm speechless actually.
One day I hope that you
We want
are
to
able to do
we
an
want
adventure
to.
like that.
Yeah, I want to.
I'm still waiting on my certificate, bro.
Hey, I forget
Yeah.
So sorry.
Next time I come to
Next time
Singapore, I'll
come back.
finally get my Tambah Overlanders overlanding certificate.
That one will be a special one, not the standard one that you give to people.
Guys, you gotta boycott him if he doesn't get me a Overlander certificate.
I think any final words for the camera, guys, and maybe some tips for the rest of us who want to embark on such a journey. You know?
Okay, you know, share the top 5 items that
Top
we would
5
advise to bring.
items which you will carry on your trip that you may not have thought about carrying on your trip.
Okay.
This for bikes, bike trip.
Bike trip.
Okay, the first one is very obvious lah. Your phone with GPS apps installed.
Okay.
And when I say GPS apps, it's not just Google Maps. There are so many countries where Google Maps are not accurate or they don't use Google Maps.
Okay.
Example, China, of course, Russia, Iran, and in parts of Central Asia and Afghanistan, Google Maps was just completely off. Like, do not follow, otherwise you end up in a river or dead end. Yeah, so what Haren has installed, or what we have installed on our phones, is Gaia GPS, GAIA.
GAIA, yeah.
It's an awesome GPX. They have GPX trails for off-road as well, and it'll tell you is it single track, dual track, enduro, and there's a lot of input from other riders into Gaia GPS with pictures, of like what you can expect on the trail and petrol stops, and we contribute in our own ways as well when we go through those routes. So that's the first thing, phone with GPS apps. Next thing, okay, this one because I'm very scared of losing my bike lah. So I need a very robust bike chain, like a lock.
Okay, U-lock.
Yes.
A U-lock or a chain lock, a heavy duty one with a rail padlock that is difficult to pick open.
Damn, bro.
And a cover to like conceal or disguise your bike a little bit.
I think cover is really good because it completely makes the bike invisible. Almost. When you cover a bike, suddenly it just looks like a piece of the background. To the point I've been to a hotel where I parked my bike right in front of reception and then covered it. And then I met guests at breakfast and I said, hey, we rode here with our bikes. And like, oh, awesome.
Where's the bike?
Where are the bikes? And I'm like, it's right in front of reception. You actually have to cross it to get from your room to reception or room to the restaurant where I'm talking to them, and they didn't know that there were even bikes there.
Yeah, and we've been warned by so many other travelers and people who just wrote to us on Instagram that hey guys, when you come to Europe, UK, you all better keep your bikes parked in private garage. There's so much bike theft there, and with dirt bikes, it's so light, right? They can just lift up the bike. 2 guys, 3 guys lift up the bike and onto the truck or lorry, and it's gone. So that's the second 2 items, bike lock and bike cover. There are a few more technical.
Portable jumper kit.
Okay.
So it's like the it's like a power bank
Yes.
with the adapters, so you can jumpstart your bike. If you don't have a kickstart on your bike, that is a must to have. Another thing people don't think about, multimeter.
Oh, okay.
Nowadays bikes are more electronic.
Yeah.
You need to diagnose a fuel pump. Why is the injector not working? Why is the starter not getting power? So on and so forth. So having a small multimeter, now you get the
like
one,
a
it's just like a
pen,
pen. You just put a AA or AAA battery inside. You can diagnose all these problems. So multimeter is one of those. And what's the last?
And the last thing, if it's more than one person, like you're going with a buddy or more, a CADO, a comms device. So we use CADO Edge, which has been working very well for us. And we use it for navigating if there's like a pothole or a dangerous obstacle. He will warn me when he's ahead. Or when there are cops also, he'll say, hey, siam. Or behave yourself.
Oh, not
Not like this.
This one I thought gather, right, or stop?
I forget.
for motorcycle community, this means cops.
Oh, you know that.
Okay.
So I think just to end off, we can say basically, if you ask us what our biggest regret is not going sooner. What's the hardest part? Hardest part is deciding to go and to stop making excuses not to go if you really want it.
Okay.
So those are the 2 main things. So another 2 things that we always live by is number 1, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that is one important one that we've had in Tajikistan, where we realize we tend to be like, hey, no lah, you go first you go first Oh, you wait, you got a problem, okay, I go first No. You can do that in Singapore, you can do that in Thailand. But if you go somewhere like Tajikistan, where for 200 kilometers, there is no petrol, no village, no mobile reception, then you realize what it means to go together.
As a
where
team.
you need to go literally together.
No such thing as okay, see you at the next stop.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to wrap up, the last thing is the adventure begins when the bike breaks down.
That and when you get lost, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think getting lost is okay. The bike breakdown is.
Jalak.
So many times, like in Kazakhstan, the bike broke down. I managed to limp the bike into this town. A Harley just happened to pull up beside me. Здравствуйте, bike problem. Okay, da, shas. He calls his friend. Okay. Follow me, workshop.
Oh wow.
Go to the workshop. Everyone is drinking. Brother, my bike problem. Okay. This problem, you put parking bike here, now drinking. Tomorrow, bike repaired. And so, I mean, what do you do, right? It was evening time already. Join them for a drink session, and next day work on the bike. And that's how we made some really good friends. Shout out to all my friends in Semipalatinsk. You guys were awesome.
So yeah, I think it's been very enlightening having you guys here. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
Thank
Oh,
you
of
so
course.
much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the stories that you share is very inspiring and very enlightening. Quite engaging as well. Like wow, for me I'm speechless. I don't know about you.
Definitely, makes me want to go straight away tomorrow.
Yeah, so thank you really thank you for making the time for us. And once again, we have to do a shout out to TVS and Motorsport for loaning us the experience center for this podcast. Okay, if you're looking to buy TVS bikes, or if you want to test ride some models, you can come on down to the TVS Experience Center here in Kampung OP. Once again, thank you for joining us on this podcast, especially you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright.
Ride on, stand back, overlanders. We're living each moment.